Today I'm going to talk about past lives. This is one of many that I'm going to do on this topic because it's a subject that really interests me, and I'm sure probably interests you quite a lot too. So we're going to talk about past lives. Are there past lives? Do we believe in past lives? Have you ever kind of lived before, do you think? Or perhaps you've had a recurring dream set in another time and a place? Or maybe you've had a nagging feeling that you were once somebody else. Talk about reincarnation was once really taboo, wasn't it? And in today's tolerant times, many people are coming forward to say that they're convinced that they've lived before. The previous lives they describe are not necessarily always about being a person who's a nice guy. A lot of people talk of the tedium, the boredom of previous ages, and sometimes they believe themselves to be quite unsavoury sort of characters in the reports they give. So, it's not all. Maybe it's fantasy, maybe it's not. But belief in reincarnation is certainly common in the East, particularly among the Hindus and the Buddhists and many others over there too. But it's much rarer in our culture in the West, isn't it? But it's not entirely alien to us, because the ancient Greeks, and in particular Orpheus, Pythagoras and Plato, they all talk of the migration of the human soul. They talk about it going over many lives, both animal and human, what they call metempsychosis, And even the early Christian church also accepted the principle, which was expounded by the Gnostics in particular and by numerous church fathers. This included Clement of Alexandria, for example, Origen and St. Jerome. They all talked about reincarnation. And the doctrine was only declared a heresy, in 553 years after the death of Christ at the Second Council of Constantinople. And they just said you can't talk about this anymore. But in modern times, there's been a great deal of sort of research into the claims people are making about remembered past lives, One of the best known, I'm going to tell you about now, I'll have to look at the notes for this, is by Shanti Devi. She was born in Delhi in 1926, and at the age of 7, she told her mother that she'd been alive before in a town called Muttra in India. And over the next 2 years, her recall of events increased and increased, and soon she was telling her parents about her previous husband. She was talking about their house and her 3 children. And at the age of 9, a complete stranger came to the door of their house to discuss business with her father by sheer coincidence. And Shanti, she claimed that she recognised him and said, as she said, it was her husband's cousin from her previous life. And everybody was astonished, of course, and the man began to believe Muttra. So he agreed that his cousin's wife Ludgi, who died she was her cousin's wife Ludgi, that's who he thought it was. So when they went to visit, and Shanti recognised him immediately and flung herself into her arms when she met them. She was taken to Muttra, and she was able to direct the carriage to Lugi's house and identified her father-in-law, who was sitting in front of it. She also recognised her 2 eldest children, but she didn't recognise the youngest one because that one had been born after the death of herself in her previous life. So there's now a growing wealth of cases like Shanti's that are suggestive of reincarnation. Today, many people are exploring ways to unlock their own lost memories, and I'm sure some of you have tried to do this. And some people have had kind of spontaneous recall. But there's also professional people out there who help you to unlock your hidden memories. These past life therapists use mainly techniques such as deep relaxation. They do sessions and hypnotic techniques to guide the client back in time. And firstly, they encourage them to recall events in this life and then look further and further back into childhood. And a point comes when they can ask the subject to now look into the time before they were born. So they're told to recall what they see and feel. So some describe a period between lives, and then others talk about a heavenly life and an afterlife jump sort of thing. But most jump back to memories of their lives from history. Of course, this is fascinating, and it's a psychological experiment as well in many respects. But regression into past lives has a therapeutic effect, they say. There are many cases on record showing that the illness we experience in this life are the traces left by traumatic experiences from past lives. So for example, a person suffering from severe eczema discovers that in a past life they were burnt to death, for example. By reliving the experience, they understand the root cause of their physical problems. The blemishes disappear after therapy sessions. There have been cases of this. There are many cases on record where psychological problems and physical illnesses are healed after a period of past life therapy. Now, in the East, reincarnation is described as the progress of the soul through many lives on earth. The soul goes through like grades in school, and before it graduates to the sort of immortal perfection of the oneness with the infinite. And so throughout this progress, in the East they say we accumulate karma, which is a sort of a Sanskrit word taken from the word kri, which is to do and describes the effects of past actions. Right. So the Western equivalent would be the sayings of Jesus when he says the maxim, you sow and as you sow, so shall you reap. So it's like a kickback. We carry it forward through our lives, and past lives become important in this, and particularly in the Hindu idea that a man's karma follows him from one incarnation to the next until it's completely fulfilled or transcended. I've talked about this a lot in my other videos. Now, of course, all these memories of past lives may be fantasy. They might be genetic memories, perhaps, or even clairvoyance of the past, it could be argued, and some spiritualists argue this. Because the brain's an incredible storehouse of unconscious memories. I mean, like in a hypnotic trance, a person is coaxed to recall vast amounts of information. Like a page from a book that's been glanced at in childhood has been recalled word for word by a hypnotised adult many years later. There's been cases of this actually shown. The miraculous cures could be psychosomatic, and like recalling a past lives may be just a way of resolving psychological problems through fantasy. So the evidence for reincarnation will always be subject to debate with the skeptics. But the fact is, more and more people than ever are beginning to come forward to proclaim that they've lived before. And I indeed feel the same, because past lives, I believe, are kind of for me been proven. I mean, my work with the Nadi oracles, my work with dreams, my work with my clairvoyance, everything to me points to that we've lived before. But many, many spiritualists and many, many mediums say the complete opposite. They say, no, we don't live before. You're not even allowed to talk about it on a spiritualist platform. And this is one of the reasons I gave up talking on spiritualist platforms, because I don't feel I should be centered like that when I know a truth to be true. They say, it can't be proven, but I believe it can be. So what do you think? Please leave a message in the comments below, because I'd like to know your feedback. Are you a spiritualist that believes that there's no such thing as past lives and no such thing as reincarnation? We live just the once, that's it. Or do you believe, like I do, that we live many times? So leave your messages and follow this channel, because I'm going to talk about this quite a lot in future videos, and I'd like to hear your questions as well. Okay, so don't forget, you can read about this in much more detail in my books. What to Do When You're Dead, I talk about the mediumistic stance on this. Do we go from this life into the afterlife and then into future lives as well? I kind of try to square the two ideas of Hinduism and spiritualism there. And also my book called Messages from the Universe, in which I really go into detail exploring past lives by accessing the Nadi leaves in India, the oracles in India. So lots of fascinating stuff there we can talk about. So put it all below. See you next time. Is death the end, or does a new world await us? In my book called What to Do When You're Dead, I examine the evidence for life after death. Drawing on the insights of spiritual traditions, the latest scientific research, and my own work as a psychic medium, you are shown what the afterlife is really like. What happens after death is so unspeakably beautiful that our feelings and imagination cannot come close to expressing it. At death, we enter a world filled with magical light, ethereal sounds, and magnificent landscapes that are beyond anything we have ever experienced. As we enter this dimension of the multiverse, our surviving consciousness opens to a state of blissful being that is incomprehensible to the narrow awareness of earthly life. We will all be going there, so isn't it time you read the manual to find out what it's really like? The book, What to Do When You're Dead, tackles the big questions of life, the reason for death, and the final purpose of existence. Its aim is to help you to overcome the fear of death by preparing for the afterlife. What you'll read is not fantasy or religious belief. It's based on verified information revealed through spirit communicators and from those who have had near-death experiences. It is complemented by the mystical teachings from multiple spiritual traditions and ancient teachings. You will come away with answers to many questions and gain insights about what it's like to die and awaken in a new world. The book explains that we are not the body and that after death we can travel in a body of light. The book will challenge you and I hope also inspire you to investigate the wonders of life after death. What to Do When You're Dead is available now through Amazon or my website at psychics.co.uk.